Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
Hey, and this is Jack, Chief Lead Generation Officer at salesbread.com.
Come on, join me. Let's do a quick
I want a
water
cooler.
cooler.
Yeah, sure. Here we go. Cheers.
So
Okay,
today,
Jeremy.
water cooler on what? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about this idea that leads can save a business. Will more leads keep a business running? And I'm bringing that up because I think there's too many people running companies that think lead gen is the answer to their prayers, and it might not be. For my side of the fence, at
so
least.
biased. So let's explore that. Dude, are you
Yeah.
not like providing like lead generation service?
Well, that's exactly the
How
point.
about you
So
let your
I
us know?
think no, there's
No,
how
I
do
was
I
thinking
put
of
this?
sponsors, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay, before we get in, word from sponsor. So today, most B2B companies either lack the time or expertise to turn those cold prospects into warm leads and booked appointments. So at salesbread.com, we will bring you one lead per day using ultra personalized cold emails and LinkedIn messages. So if you want to talk strategy, if you want to potentially partner up on a couple of outbound lead gen projects, head over to salesbread.com/contact and get in touch. At the very least, I can share a few ideas that you may use for your own in-house campaigns. Salesbread.com/contact.
Love it. Highly recommend it. I use them, and they've been doing a fantastic job so far.
Thanks,
Anyhow,
Jeremy.
the second sponsor we have is QuickMail.io. It's a fantastic tool when it comes to doing outreach by email and also keeping your deliverability strong and high. So, give it a go. It's free for the deliverability part, and the rest, yes, you have to pay because, it helps you keeping your business afloat, doesn't it?
Well said, Jeremy. Nice. Okay, so let's dive into it. Will more leads save a business? And with that, I want to.
It's clear that no lead doesn't serve any business, right?
Right. Just let's frame it another way. Think about this, Jeremy. It's like, what is the value of a lead? Like when you get a new lead, what happens to your bank account?
Nothing.
Nothing. Exactly. Nothing happens. And we need to keep that in mind because leads only turn into money when other stuff goes well. And cutting straight to it, I think there's too many companies that are ignoring this second half of turning leads into money that must first be addressed before more leads can save a business.
That's funny. It looks like, we got the same sort of like problem, like people do the, what do you say, like shotgun approach, like the spray and pray type of approach, like try to reach everyone.
Yeah.
And I think what we are discussing is simply the next stage. It's like they need more leads, but the next stage is still not working. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. So, okay, so let's quickly lay out what needs to happen in order for a lead to turn into money. You've got to close this lead. So when you're listening, you need to break this down into your appropriate parts. So some businesses, maybe self-service, once they get a lead in, they simply have to sign up for a trial and then they're going to, a percentage of them will become a customer. You may be in a more hands-on selling process where you need to arrange a call. So they have to show up to that call. Then during the call, you have to make sure that they're qualified. And then if they're qualified, they need to make a buying decision. So every one of those drop-off points, you're going to lose a certain percentage of the leads that come in. But it's really important to fine-tune that before you think that just dumping more leads is going to save the day here.
Yeah, I agree. You may have like a bottleneck, a different part of your pipeline. And I mean, it's important to know why your business is failing to some extent, because if it's failing because it doesn't, just doesn't get any lead, that could be a general,
Right.
A valid reason per se. But I think like you're saying is like, it's too easy to say this is because we don't have enough leads, right?
Right.
Where it could be
Right.
you have a bottleneck maybe at the time of doing demos, or you're getting like too many leads, but they're poor quality, or, you know, those sort of things. Plus, when you play the scaling game, there's a lot of chances that something will not scale in your whole pipeline. And that could simply be your
True.
deliverability as well. You could end up with
Yeah.
a really terrible deliverability, and then suddenly you go from some leads to no leads,
Right.
right? Which will
That's
be hard.
true. Yeah. There was one other part to this puzzle that I want to bring up with you, see your thoughts. But beyond all the steps required to get this lead to close and turn into dollars, there's one other place you can spend time optimizing, and that's retention. So getting that one customer to stay longer, to spend more money with the company.
Yeah.
And if that is done really well, then you need fewer leads to save the company, if that makes sense.
It
Right.
does.
So Jeremy, I'm just curious, like, what advice would you give to a founder who says, I'm pretty sure more leads would save my company? Am I thinking about this the right way? What do I need to consider first?
Good question. Well, I'm not presumptuous enough to know, you know, what will save their business, because there's one thing for sure is if you go inbound, it will take months. So it depends, you know, how close your business is from failing. But if you go outbound, then you could potentially save it overnight, right? By just getting the right clients and so on. I would always recommend, always to sort of like review your assumptions, determine where the bottleneck really is. Like, is it exactly where you're thinking? And then, you know, it's kind of like 101, but, you know, common sense, not always common practice, but look at, you know, all the stage on your funnel and look at the one who is actually performing, having problem and difficulty performing. Is it to effectively get people to reply first? Then getting more is not the solution. We know it. We've been saying it on a lot of, you know, for God knows how many podcasts we've been doing here.
Right.
That's not the solution. Volume is not the solution. You know, it's always like better lists, better targeting, like better messages, better, you know, call to actions, whatever, right? But it's not more prospect. Usually it isn't, right? So unless you really have something that works, that scale, and maybe there is one genuine way in which I can think that this is the real reason, or the real way of solving it, is when you have very long lead sales cycles. And so or, you know, it takes a lot of time to recover that sort of like money. So you got like 2-3 months, then effectively you may need to, you know, grab more. But yeah, what do you think? What would you say?
Well, I think to answer that question, it starts with, and by the way, just to recap, the question we're answering is, will leads save my business? I think it goes back to what you were saying about laying out each part of that follow-up process, closing process, money generating things such as retaining customers longer, and just writing down your drop-off rates. So figuring out if you've got a hole in this process, if the funnel is broken somewhere, you know, you want to come in and kind of like a magic block, just jump in and fix a certain, like the worst part of your sales and all of the income generating activities before you say, okay, let's dump more leads into it. So I used to work back when I was a freelance copywriter. I worked with a company where to this day, it was the sharpest marketer that I've got to work with. And that says a lot. Justin, if you're listening, a shout out to you. The idea was he provided a certain kind of lead for his clients. And before he would work with someone, he said, we're going to pressure test your company to see how you do with a batch of leads. We want to find out what you're actually doing to close these leads. And we're going to kind of pressure test your people and your processes to find out if you're ready for a lot of leads. And he does this because the beginning of the podcast was like, will more leads save your business? His thought was absolutely not, if you don't have the right people and processes to back it up, to turn those into money. So if you're listening to this podcast, you need to pressure test your business to see what you're able to do with a batch of leads before you say, let's turn it up and let's spend a lot of resources driving more leads to us.
I think it's a very good point. You're absolutely right. It's not more leads you want, it's more money. And usually you think that the solution to more money is more leads, but that may effectively not be that. You're right with the retention, but at the end of the day, you keep tweaking your business. It's like a giant, Rubik's cube until you get them all, like, then it works and it clicks, but you will need to keep on tweaking, lots of things.
It's true. I'm just worried. Are we oversimplifying this? Like, is there a scenario
is not
that
complicated most of the time? People make it complicated, but it should not really be that complicated, right?
Well, let's turn it around. So let's think of a scenario where more leads would in fact save this business, right? Are we looking at a scenario where we know what the close rate is and we know what the dollar per lead is?
Your market is too small. That could be a general, a genuine
Your pricing
answer.
is too low. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in this case,
I see what you're saying, right?
But if there is only like 200 actors in the market, and you have a product of $2 per actor, then of course more leads will save your business. There isn't more leads.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so maybe the ultimate answer here is more leads can only help you grow. It won't save anything. Like, use leads to scale stuff up, but not to save your company. Is that right?
I think it's pretty clear that if you have a problem already, I don't think this is due to the number of leads. Because at the end of the day, if you have a business and it's sort of like working, or unless it dwindled, like you actually get less leads this year than you had last year, so you want more leads, right? In order to maintain your sort of like either growth or your status quo, right? So, but again, it's like, it's not really the business that's going to be saved, because at the end you just trim with less SDR or less people or whatever kind of thing. So it's difficult to select more leads. I agree with you. I probably would.
What about this, Jeremy? What if someone's listening and they're saying, you know what, guys, I hear what you're talking about, but the reality is I've got 2 sales reps, and if they were only busier on the phone with qualified leads, we would be in a much different scenario. We'd have 8 different sales reps doing this, and it would save our business. Right?
I would recommend them to read The Goal. It's a brilliant book. Let me just show you. And Audible actually basically is super funny. Maybe I can do it. How do I show it? Anyway, this is the thing, like, for people who are can I actually, yes. So this is this one. It's called The Goal, and it is from an unpronounceable name. Yahoo.
Spell the first name.
Anyway, you guys saw the cover. It's a brilliant book that actually helps you sort of like check your assumptions, right? Then look at the actual bottlenecks in your business, because that's the one where you should put your things around. So in the case of the 2 SDR, for example, and you say, like, if only they got more leads, that's your assumption that the leads and the SDR are the bottlenecks, but the bottlenecks may be later down the line. And having more leads, that if you get more leads but you can't close them because you can only close, like, I don't know, 5 a week or 10 a week or whatever, because of your onboarding process, because of any constraints, then that's your highest level of throughput. You can't get more than that, and that's what you need to address, not the number of leads. So unless you really did like a good analysis of your business and everything, don't presume. And I think that's where you're hinting at, Jack, is like, don't presume leads are the savers, right, of your business. Because most of the time, it's not really where the problem is.
Yeah, there's an exercise that I do pretty regular with new clients or prospective clients, and it's working backwards to figure out the value of a lead. So you can only do that if you know. Yeah, well, you need to know the lifetime value of a customer.
Right.
So that requires you, in a lot of cases, to know how long people stay, how much they're paying each interval. And then you also need to know your close rate. So how many leads turn into that average lifetime deal size? And then you can kind of work back and say, okay, let's say you're closing 20% of your leads. Each paying customer, let's just make it really simple math, is let's say $10,000, and you're able to close 20% of your leads. Okay, triple check I've got this, Jeremy, because I usually have a spreadsheet in front of me. But
I trust you.
But yeah, thanks. But each lead, if you have a 20% close rate, is worth 20% of 10,000, which is what, 2,000?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, so each lead would be worth 2,000 in that scenario, because then if you get 10 leads, you're going to close 2 of them, right? Math going. So all of this is to say the math gets a lot clearer once you kind of can put a dollar sign on a lead.
Yeah,
then you
like
can
a
kind
calculator. Don't do like us.
yeah, exactly. Or even better, a spreadsheet. But the idea is,
but
you need to track this
right.
stuff.
Mm-hmm. If you're thinking like, for example, let's take a typical agency using cold outreach. Like for me, usually the agencies are about like 2,500. This is what we got across our board. Like most of the people are like more or less around that number. Now, if you think like your client retention is 3 months, that's 5, 6, 7. So that's 7,500, bucks. That's your lifetime value. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that could be, how many clients can you have simultaneously? It could be that your margin on those clients is not big enough, and therefore like having more is actually going to put you more in the red. It's like those sort of things that you have to really think of. But Jack is correct. Like look at, what's your margin on each of those clients, see how long it takes to get them, because it could be that if you're 3 months away from getting broke and then your sales cycle is 6 months, well, like forget it. It's not going to help. Right. So you got
well
your
said.
You got your phone willing to join the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, is there anything else we're leaving off the table?
I don't know. Some piece of advice may be useful. I would tend to think, I'll play around with the numbers. Definitely. I say, what happened, like Jack said, what happened if you suddenly can close double the rate? Like if you do 10 demos, but instead of, closing 2, can you actually close 4? Because that may actually be easier than doubling the number of leads you're getting, especially when you're going for volume. So I would say like, try to see, each step on your funnel and say, well, what if instead of doubling just the beginning of the funnel, what if we double any part of that funnel? Because if you double any part of that funnel, that's like doubling the beginning of the funnel, right?
Yeah. You're still doubling that revenue number.
So if you double the number of conversion, you move from 5 to 10. But if you keep everything equal and you double the number of input, you're going to move also from 5 to 10. So look into your funnel, which one is the easiest to actually double. That could be simply like, look, we're trying to reach like a super cool number for the end of the year on Quick Mail, and then all it takes me is like, well, let's look in my list of leads, recent leads, which one can I actually contact and push over the edge before the end of the year? It's only purely a vanity metrics, because for us, it's like, it doesn't really mean much. But if we reach this number, this is a pretty cool number to get. So that's, from that point, I would say, look at different parts on your funnel and try to double that one.
Yeah. And that's pretty good. Well, if you happen to be at a place where you have heard this conversation and you still feel like, more leads would be a big improvement for the biz, you may want to check out, you may want to check out our course, course.quickmail.io. We've put down the process. There's kind of like 8 modules, and it will take you to a place where you're able to get more of those leads using cold email. So if you think, even after this conversation, that your biggest opportunity lies in generating more leads, then highly recommend you to check out course.quickmail.io. It's going to be the follow-up conversation to the podcast without having to listen to a couple hundred episodes. And instead, you can kind of look over our shoulders, hear a lot more interviews, walkthroughs, and exclusive podcasts that should help you get there. So a couple calls to actions. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, Jeremy. Good water cooler.
I'm I'm going out, so
Yeah, got to get back to work.
that's right. All right, catch you later.
All right. See ya.